We know that when we perform mitzvos, there is a halacha that for many of the mitzvos, as we perform them, we're supposed to stand up. So, for example, you take your lulav, you shake your lulav, you stand, you put on your talis, you put on your tzitzis, you stand. Tefillin, the Ashkenazim stand. Right? For many mitzvos, you all stand. How do we know we're supposed to stand for mitzvos? So the source for standing by all mitzvos is Sefiras HaOmer. The pasuk says in Parshas Re'eh, in Perek Tezayin, pasuk Tes, Shiva Shavuos Tispor Lach. She counts 7 weeks. Me'achel Charmish Bakama. When the stalks are Bakama, they're in their stalk standing stage. Tachel Lispor Shiva Shavuos. That's when you're supposed to go ahead and start counting. And the Rush at the end of Maseches Pesachim quotes a drasha, which it's not so clear where this comes from, but he says, Al tikri bakama ela bekoma, that you should count the Sefiras HaOmer when you're standing. So because when you count Sefiras HaOmer, you're supposed to stand up, we learn from there to everywhere else. The drashas, Gzeira Shavas, it says L'kachtem lachem, by shaking a lulav, it says lachem. Over here also it says lachem, lachem, lachem. You learn from one mitzvah to the next that you're supposed to stand when performing the mitzvos. The question is, why was Sefiras HaOmer the lucky mitzvah? Why wasn't the original source by lulav? Why wasn't the original source by tefillin? By Havdalah, some people stand by Havdalah. Why? It all trickles down and connects back to Sefiras HaOmer. Why is that the paradigm of standing for mitzvos? So if we look at the process that one is supposed to undergo during the Sefiras HaOmer period, we start from the second day of Pesach, when we bring the Minchas HaOmer, a certain type of a korban, which is brought from barley. And barley is animal food. For example, the sota, her mincha that she brings is from barley, because she didn't act like an animal, so that's what she brings. So that's the Minchas HaOmer, that's where it comes from. That's the very beginning, day one of Sefiras HaOmer. We end at Shavuos. By Shavuos we bring the Shtei HaLechem, a different korban, which is brought from chita, wheat, human food. There's a transformation from animalistic type of behavior to a human type of behavior. The Maral speaks out that the word for an animal is a behema. Behema is made up of 2 words, ba, ma. What's there, that's what it is. There's no difference. You could have an ox that's born, it's an ox. 3 years later, it's still an ox. Nothing changes, it's a little bigger, but it's the same exact thing. However, when it comes to a human, an Adam, he explains, Adam is from the word Adamat, from the ground. What's ground? What's soil? It's something that you take, you put that little seed, the apple seed, into the Adamah, and big things come out of it. It grows, it develops, it changes. All of a sudden you have a fruit tree. So Maral says that's what the human being is all about. You have a person, a physical human being, and the more we invest in ourselves and try to build ourselves and develop ourselves, our peiros come out. What are our peiros? Our mitzvos. Learning Torah, being kind to others. We are able to give forth very, very beautiful things. We try over the course of Sefiras HaOmer to move from a behema status, bama, look, yeah, that's what he is. He is what he is. Finished. I had a Rebbe once that said he's from Denver. And he came to Eretz Yisrael, and he lived here for many years. And he went back to Denver. And he said, I saw an old friend of mine from 30 years ago. And he looked exactly the same. It was terrible. Can you imagine 30 years later, and you're exactly the same as you were 30 years before? No, after 30 years, you're supposed to be like a whole different person. Change, growth. More excited about life. You've built yourself up. You can't be the exact same person. We're always changing, growing, bringing out our potential, bringing out from what's inside the soil, bringing it out into fruition. That's our goal. Always developing ourselves. And that's what Sefiras HaOmer is all about. Trying to shoot from being a behema, just a regular person, to something much bigger. Obviously, the way to get that is with the Torah. It's an amazing thing. The Gemara says in Maseches Yuma that in Mitzrayim, Bnei Yisrael were like these animals pecking at the garbage. Here we have that a lot in Israel. You have the cats, right? They jump into that. You can see them eating the garbage, the leftovers. And that's what they were like. Menachrim ba'ashpa. They literally didn't have meal times. It wasn't, okay, you eat from 8:30 to 9, and then 1 o'clock to 1:30. There was no such thing. It's like whenever they saw that garbage bag that's just thrown out after a meal, they jumped. That's what the Jewish people were like in Mitzrayim. They were like animals. And all of a sudden, what do we see? They went from that. Moshe Rabbeinu had to teach them, the Gemara says, that there are like certain times that you're supposed to eat and not eat. They had to literally learn. The Chassam Sofer uses the Lashon, they were barbarians. They weren't humans. They had to learn how to just function with etiquette, with proper human behavior. They went from that to getting the Torah 7 weeks later. Wild. It's one thing you say, you have like functional human beings that come and now they get inspired and they learn the Torah. Wow. We were talking about animals that went ahead and went to the other extreme to get the most holy language, the holy Torah, the holy knowledge, to connect to the most holy entity in the whole wide world. The Kadosh Baruch Hu, it's like, whoa, that's pretty extreme. But that's what the period of Sefiras Omer is all about. Says the Yavitz, in his, the Mishnah Yavitz on Pirkei Avos, he says there's an amazing difference between humans and animals. Animals are horizontal. And some guys like to be horizontal also in their beds, but like we're not supposed to be lying down in our beds all day. Okay? Animals are horizontal. Their heads are this way, right? Their legs behind. Human beings stand up straight. That's one of the major differences between a human and an animal. And he explains that is why we stand when we do mitzvos. Because when we stand, we're showing, I'm a human. I am someone that has tremendous potential. I'm not just ba-ma, like what you see is what you get. I have a lot more to me. I stand up. I'm a human being. I have potential. I can accomplish big things. I am focused up towards Hashem, like the Maral says, that a human being, the Pasuk says, is an Adam, is the Eitz HaSadeh. He's like the tree of the field. What does it mean? We're like trees, right? We have a main part of our body, our heads, like the roots of a tree. That's the main part, right? You cut the roots, the whole thing dies. You cut the head off, it's over, right? And then we have these branches. We have our legs and we have our arms. They're secondary. Yes, they're very useful and they're very important, but they're not the main thing. And then we, of course, have our trunk. We are literally trees. Says the Maharal, though, there's a fundamental difference between a tree and a human. And that is that one of us are upside down. Right? The tree has its roots in the ground, on the bottom, and then the branches and other parts are secondary, are on top. And we have our root over here with our secondary parts below us. Says the Maharal, that's purposeful. Because where does the tree get its nutrients from? Where does it get its chiyus, its life? From the soil, from the ground. So the root, the main part, has to be in and rooted into the place where it's going to get its livelihood, its chiyas from. The human being, where do we get our livelihood? Where do we get our chiyas from? From Hashem. So our root is pointed up, and that's where we are. So we are like that tree in the Adamah, the Adam, to go ahead and grow and develop and change and hit very, very, very big heights. The biggest of the trees. How does we depict that? By standing up. We go ahead and we stand, we show, I'm a human being. I'm doing a mitzvah, I'm shaking my lulav, I'm putting on my tefillin, I'm putting on my tzitzis. Why am I doing that? Because I'm not an animal. I don't put it lying down. I don't put it on horizontal like an animal would. I put it on standing up because I'm a human with tremendous potential, connecting to Hashem. And that is a process that we all have to go through for our entire lives. Right? We're created physical. We're created in a physical world. We have to eat, just like animals eat. We have to take care of our family, like animals also have to do that. But we shoot for a lot more. And the second we just are like, okay, I'm busy with my physical needs all the time, that's where I'm rooted, so then we're backwards, we're upside down, we're horizontal, right? We're not where we're supposed to be. But the more that we appreciate and tap into the Holy Torah, the more we appreciate what we're capable of doing. We've mentioned that there was a minhag, Rav Yerucham writes, in many of the European yeshivas, they had a minhag every single day of Sefiras HaOmer. They'd learn one of the 48 ways. And what do you do on the 49th? You review them all. So every single day, they learn one of the Memches Kinyani Torah, to try to incorporate that in our behavior, because we're always trying to change. Animals don't change. You don't have a dog that was, acted one way, then he became such a nice dog over the years. The dog is the dog. You might like it more, but it's the same behavior. The behavior stays. But our behavior has to change. Our behavior has to be elevated. Yes, we could literally go in 7 weeks from being a barbarian, not knowing when to eat like a normal human being, to go ahead and get a Torah. To be able to be supernatural over the world, on top of everything, in a close to Hashem in a way that no one ever could have dreamt. You literally could go. People say, no, don't be too extreme. We learn from Hashem. You could be very extreme. You could go from one end all the way to the other. We just have to work on ourselves. We have to recognize that we have that potential. We have to recognize that's why we're here. It's not just getting through the day, just doing our thing. That's not enough. We have to think, how can I become better? How can I take another piece of myself and let it bear fruits? How can I give more? How can I do more? How can I connect more? And if we take this time very, very seriously, we recognize where we come from and where we have the potential of going, and do something about that now, we'll all be able to be zocheh, to really activate ourselves in ways that we never could have dreamt of. So every time we make a bracha now, every time we do a mitzvah and we stand up, remind ourselves, what comes from Sefiras HaOmer, which represents the transformation from the behemoth to the human being, to the powerful human being, to the superhuman being, and Bezrat Hashem will all be able to hit our potential and a lot more going into our Shavuos. Shavua Tov.